Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse anyone outright. He didn't make a headline-grabbing declaration. Instead, he did something far more unsettling. He hesitated. In a sport where insiders are careful with every word, that hesitation sent a jolt through the NASCAR garage. His comment wasn't loud, but it landed hard, especially because the focus was Joe Gibbs Racing. When one of the most trusted and measured voices in the sport openly admits that something feels off, people lean in. And when that admission comes with genuine confusion and unease, it creates questions that can't be brushed aside. This wasn't a manufactured take or a rush to judgment. This was Dale Jr. stopping himself mid-thought and acknowledging that the situation didn't sit right. In NASCAR, pauses like that often signal deeper issues brewing out of public view. To understand why this moment mattered, you have to understand who Chris Gabehart is. Gabehart was never just another name on a pit box or another voice on the radio. He was a central figure in one of the most successful stretches of Denny Hamlin's career, helping deliver 22 victories, including back-to-back Daytona, 500 wins, the kind of achievements that define legacies. Under his leadership, Championship 4 appearances stopped feeling like lofty goals and started feeling like expectations. That level of consistency doesn't come from luck or circumstance. It comes from preparation, trust, and a leader who understands both people and performance. But Gabehart's impact went far beyond race day strategy. He wasn't just calling fuel windows or tire decisions. He was shaping drivers, managing pressure, and setting standards. He had the rare ability to steady a team after a disastrous weekend and refocus them without panic. Drivers listened to him. Crews believed in him. When the stakes were highest, he was the presence people wanted in their corner. That trust is precisely why Joe Gibbs Racing made a bold move last year. Gabehart was pulled off the pit box and promoted to Director of Competition. This wasn't a ceremonial title or a quiet step toward the background. It was one of the most influential positions in the entire organization. The Director of Competition role sits at the intersection of philosophy and execution. It influences hiring decisions, development pipelines, technical direction, and long-term competitive goals. It's about shaping the future, deciding not just how to win next Sunday, but how to stay competitive for years. When JGR handed Gabehart that role, they were signaling confidence, stability, and long-term trust. And then, suddenly, he was gone. No send-off, no announcement, no public acknowledgement of more than a decade of success and influence. Not even a brief statement of appreciation, just silence. That silence became even more glaring in the way the news emerged. There was no press release crafted by a communications team, no coordinated social media post, no controlled messaging. Instead, the story broke in the most unusual way possible, through a reporter standing outside a courthouse. Jenna Fryer casually reported that Chris Gabehart had left Joe Gibbs Racing. That was the entirety of it. No reasons, no timeline, no quotes. In a sport where messaging is meticulously managed, the absence of messaging spoke volumes. When Denny Hamlin was later asked about Gabehart's departure, the response only deepened the intrigue. 6 seasons together, 22 wins, 2 Daytona 500 trophies. And yet, Hamlin offered nothing more than a curt no comment, no thanks, no reflection, no acknowledgement of their shared success. Just an immediate shutdown. In NASCAR, where relationships and loyalty are foundational, that kind of response doesn't fade into the background. It stands out. That's when Dale Earnhardt Jr. voiced what many inside the garage were already whispering. On his podcast, he didn't soften the message. He called Gabehart's exit a major loss and openly questioned the internal environment at Joe Gibbs Racing. He referred to the overall temperature of the building, a phrase that carried far more weight than it seemed. Anyone familiar with Dale Jr. knows that wasn't casual language. It was a signal one of discomfort, tension, and misalignment, a way of saying something wasn't functioning the way it should behind closed doors. He went further, stressing how vital the Director of Competition role had become, and emphasizing that Gabehart was perfectly suited for it. That context made the timing even more baffling. Less than a year after being entrusted with JGR's long-term direction, Gabehart was suddenly out. No transition plan, no successor named. Just a vacancy where leadership was supposed to be. Behind the scenes, the situation had been growing more complicated for months. Despite his executive responsibilities, Gabehart wasn't allowed to stay focused solely on the big picture. Midway through the season, he was pulled direct, lie back into day-to-day problem solving with the number 54 team and Ty Gibbs, Performance was uneven. Expectations were enormous. The pressure inside the organization was rising fast. Earnhardt stepped in not because he wanted to, but because he felt obligated. Dale Jr. described it as someone answering a call out of responsibility rather than desire, trying to stabilize a situation that was drifting dangerously off course. The effect was immediate. Ty Gibbs found momentum. He won the in-season tournament and secured $1 million bonus. Strong finishes followed. Confidence returned. The tone around the team changed almost overnight. Inside the garage, there was no debate about who had sparked that turnaround. But success didn't erase the underlying issue. Dale Jr. openly questioned whether Earnhardt had ever truly agreed to be pulled back into that grind. The implication was clear. This may not have been a choice at all. Promoting someone to director of competition only to repeatedly drag them back into crisis management sends conflicting signals. Over time, that kind of dynamic erodes trust and motivation. Building a long-term vision while constantly being redirected to short-term fixes is exhausting, even for the most committed leaders. Then the rumors began to circulate. Earnhardt was linked to Spire Motorsports, a smaller but rapidly growing organization with serious funding and ambition. It seemed like a natural fit, a place where someone with his experience could build systems, shape culture, and leave a lasting imprint. But when Spire announced its plans, Earnhardt's name was absent. Suddenly, one of the most influential figures in the NASCAR garage had left a premier organization with no publicly known destination, and Joe Gibbs Racing still hadn't acknowledged his departure.